unmute yourself and say something so that we can hear that you're there.
Fine, moderator. But I hear you with a lot of problems.
Can I check if the following people are here inside? Dr. Kojo Asante, is he here? Mr. Musa Kondo from Sahel. Ms. Casey Ikomo Soina. Mr. Paul Osei Kufo, not here? Okay. Tibash. Sabambe gire nzabela kuwene. Yeah? Okay, sure. Colleagues, can I ask the following people to please come to the front here? Can I ask Dr. Kojo Asante to come to the front? Mr. Musa Kondo, please come to the front. Ms. Casey Ekomo Soine, please come to the front, right here. Can I please ask Mr. Paul Osei Kufo to please come to the front? There are chairs here prepared for you. We have one participant online, Mr. Ibrahima Kane. I just want to ask you to please, if you can hear me, make a sound. Just say something so that we can hear. Online. All right. Dr. Kojo Asante. All right. So this group, I'm going to put more pressure on you because we have run really out of time. So colleagues, Doctor, can I hand over to you?
Thank you.
All right. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good. Nice meeting you, Patrick.
Nice meeting you in person.
Is it good afternoon already?
Yes.
Good afternoon, colleagues. And as Professor Wakesa said, all protocols observed. All right. So this is a panel on foreign influence, disinformation, and democratic resilience in West Africa, rethinking African agency in the age of global contestation. Now, the panel has been put together by the international desk at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, based in Accra. The mission of the desk is to strengthen democratic resilience, African agency in global affairs by monitoring foreign influence, shaping international cooperation policy, empowering civil society actors through research, analysis, and strategic advocacy. Now, today's discussion comes off on the back of a baseline study that we published on foreign powers' interest and impacts on democratic consolidation in West Africa. This is the publication. We have some copies available, so if you want to pick some later, you can do that. Now, the baseline critically examines the shifting geopolitical landscape in 8 West African countries and its implication for democratic consolidation and regional stability. It explores the strategic interest of key foreign actors in the region like France, China, Russia, Turkey, the Gulf states, particularly UAE and Saudi Arabia, and influential North African states like Morocco and Algeria. And it examines their models of engagement and, of course, the implications for governance and security. So it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Rabiu Al-Hassan, who is a media and digital strategy expert with about 2 decades of experience working across media channels, across many media channels. He's currently the executive director of FactSpace West Africa, a fact-checking organization. So, Rabiu, over to you. I'm done.
Hello? Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Kojo Asante of the CDD. And thank you again for putting together this diverse group to have this conversation. So a 2025 baseline study by CDD Ghana critically examined the strategic interest of key foreign actors, their models of engagement, and the resulting governance and security challenges thereof, and identified that both stabilizing and destabilizing effects of these foreign powers. This comes also on the back of another study by the Africa Center for Strategic Studies, which looked at the mapping of disinformation in Africa and found a strong link between the scope of disinformation and instability. Now, we've put together this group, diverse group, to have this conversation, to be able to lay out the issues on the ground and also see what the CSOs and civic spaces in these countries are doing to be able to tackle the emerging issues. I have here Musa Kondo, who is the executive director of Sahel Institute from Mali, Ibrahima Kane, who is joining online, a governance expert and advisor to the special envoy of the president of Senegal, and Paul Osei, who is the coordinator for WADEMUS, which is the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. Also, Kesi Ikomo Sonye, got it right, the director, Peace and Development Watch, Central Africa Republic. This is going to be an interesting conversation, considering what happened during the last session. I heard about discussions around narratives, and particularly the mentioning of Burkina Faso's president. I'm sure you would have a lot of questions to ask because you've seen on social media a lot of happenings across West Africa and the Sahel, and you would want to understand what really is happening on the ground. I would start with my colleague from Mali, Musa Kondo. We are seeing a surge in disinformation and propaganda shaping public opinion across the Sahel. from your experience as someone from the Sahel region, what are the most dangerous narratives being pushed by foreign actors, and why are they resonating with the public?
Hello. Thank you so much for the organizers and especially the CDD Ghana for having us here. As Sahel Institute perspective, we've been working a lot on this topic in various countries in the Sahel region and all broadly in other countries who are facing the same challenges as they started in the Sahel region. For example, the Benin, where we start having the first attacks of the terrorist jihadist groups, from the JNIM, where we have office, Sahel Institute country office. This fake news, as you mentioned, didn't start like few days or few months or few years ago. They've started since 2012, when if I can say, the recent instability phase in the Sahel region, and especially the Central Sahel concerning these three countries. But the special one started when the coup happened since the 2020 military coups in Mali and then Burkina Faso and Niger. So we've seen also the coups in Guinea and Chad, but I've just focused on these three areas and all the incredible things we've been hearing. And also I've been hearing from some of our very educated, unfortunately, people in other part of the region, in the continent, thinking the African and especially the AS countries are living the best history, loving history in the world. I will tell you it is not true. You need to understand it. I will be very clear. What you think is happening in Burkina, in Mali, is only what you are having been told to you or sold on internet. Maybe I can go deeper and answer certain very specific questions. So just coming to that, you have.
Yes, especially flowing from what you've just said, people would want to understand why you are saying what you are saying, and I would need to provide them the context within which you are speaking. Musa here is a civil society actor, originally based in Mali, but he has had to flee the country. So again, going back to my question, what are the major narratives playing out, specific narratives playing out, and why do you think these narratives are resonating with the public and with local people?
First of all, you have to understand what changed the game the most is the coming and arriving of the Russian Wagner groups in the region. So many people have seen them coming only with the military side. But what people don't know the most is the kind of expertise they brought with them, which is a communication expert, political expert, and they build narratives on the mistakes of other partners the Mali and the Sahel region used to have, which we cannot say everything was like a dark or bad, but there are certain room for change and also improvement. So this expertise made it clear as the people in this region were against especially the French, which was not true. And I made it very clear, there was against, even this is not a very specific people, these are people who are against the French foreign intervention in this Francophone Africa part. And also the narrative was built on the colonization conversation. We had it here, as people may say it or take it on very different angles. Of course, French did mistakes and continue certainly to do it, but the disappearing of France doesn't mean exactly or 100% the successful of our own countries. So we need to make it clear if we intervene or we do things to make it clear we're doing for our own interests, our own vision, our own development thing. So the French is gone, but the problems still remain, even not worse, but the same. Just to say, people been sold a narrative to make a context in a moment, very specific moment, predictive, but not long-term run. And that's what we say after 5 years, all the problems we continue to face in terms of the blockade we seen recently in Mali, the massive killing in Burkina Faso. I'm just asking you to Google what happened in Solenzo about the civilian people, and also the incapacity of the government to create even at short-term solutions, because we have a very creative people. Also, the narrative we have access online are the ones who have access, and the millions other who cannot speak up. And by saying this, I'll have a really good thinking and a message to the numbers of ones who are in prison for just expressing their own mind. By saying this, I will say that, for example, the former Prime Minister of Mali, Moussa Mara, who's been arrested and jailed for 2 years in prison for just making a tweet. And I have a list of, I've been showing the list of people from Burkina Faso who've been sent to the front to fight against the jihadist group because they have criticized the way things are being doing in the country. So if we have, or we had the possibility to access the opinion or the point of view of other opinion leaders in the region, for sure would not be been seeing or perceiving, for example, Ibrahim Traore as you do today in other parts of Africa. Thank you.
Okay. Kessie is coming from the Central African Republic with Peace and Development Watch. So from what Musa has just said, we see reports from influencers, we see reports from bloggers, some not locals. They've traveled from their countries, original countries, and gone into these countries to report of things happening on the ground. But we've seen it all online. I'm sure a number of people here have seen all the narratives being pushed out around these countries online. But here we have Musa telling us from his experience, personal experience, from Mali, and by extension from the other AES countries, that these things are not true. So how are we able to tell and independently share our views on these things, considering all the narratives we see online?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. To answer to your question, I think I will start by saying that it's important for us to try to understand, when we talk about this information in Africa, mainly, in Sahel, but also in Central Africa. First, when Wagner went in Africa, they start in Central African Republic. And of course, they have been applauded. And as Musa said, they come with a lot of different experts in terms of communication and other. And so far, what we miss when we try to deal with this information coming from them is that I think we don't have a good understanding of how, as African, we consume information. I remember the report, I'll give the example of Central African Republic. I remember the report of the World Bank saying that the percentage of access to internet, because the information start online mainly, the percentage of access to internet in Central African Republic, it's 11%. And then before I travel, and I come here, I went to one of the biggest regions in Central African Republic, where the World Bank said that the access to internet there is like 0.2%, something like that. But trust me, I went there, and they have access to Starlink. So in the market, where you have the most, there's a lot of people have access to Starlink. And I realized that when I asked them, like, which kind of information content you follow, of course they follow all those bloggers, all those people that most of African seems to applaud, saying that they're fighting the right fight, and they're fighting for Pan-Africanism, a kind of Pan-Africanism and other. So they follow them. But those people I'm talking about in that region, they are kind of in the gray zone that we don't consider. So it means that even the way we understand access to internet, access to information, also as researcher, we don't really pay attention to those people. We focus on the report of the World Bank and other, but we are not aware that access to those fake information, people do have access to that. The second thing is that because we always focus on, once again, the idea that access to internet is low, we don't produce, content to try to fight back against those threats. And I think it's a huge mistake. The second thing that I can say to answer to your answer is that even when we try to come with ideas, mainly, the main people fighting against disinformation in Africa right now are civil society. You don't find private company working on that. But where the money, where comes the money to support the civil society, to do, to fight against that disinformation come from? Mainly from Western countries. And trust me, sometimes when you come with ideas, and I talk, based on my experience, you come with some ideas and they're out of the box. They think that it doesn't respond to, the list of the checklist that they have, then you will not get the money to do that. So the point is, how can we try to think about solution to have access to funding, to be able to come with our own solution to resist the disinformation. My third point is why we are not able also to respond, in a good way to that threat, is because at some point, disinformation is becoming a career for a lot of young Africans. I can tell you, because of poverty, because people are jobless, I know that Wagner in my country, in Mali, in Burkina and other, they recruit a lot of young people that they train. And it's real training, like going to school. I have even two of my cousins doing that. So they go, rather than to go to school, they are trained to, to use the AI, to use how to deal with how to use that, I don't know how to call that, but all those things related
to
Twitter,
Facebook,
exactly,
Instagram.
all the tools, and they're good. They're pretty good. So one of my cousins, he used to work for Wagner, but now he exports expertise. He's doing that in Mali. I just learned about it recently. He's doing that. He's now trainer in Mali and in Burkina Faso. So in terms of response, are we ready for that? Do we have the good strategy to respond to that? So far, what we keep doing is documenting. And I think it's not enough. People they are moving so fast that we don't understand what we are going to create again. And my last point is that we focus so much on, Wagner and on all those people, working around disinformation in Africa, that we forgot that even our, governments are now using it. I'm not just talking about for instance, Central African Republic, I will not just talk about the president and his team, but even the opponent. So where are we going? It's not just about foreign countries trying to spread disinformation in our countries, but even us, we are using it now. So I think it's bigger than what we think, and we should really rethink the way we come with solution. And our solution also is linked to access to funding and how we can be creative in the way we raise funding to fight disinformation.
Thank you. I think for the audience in the room, we need to understand the commentary coming from the people in the heart of where the problems are unfolding, that social media currently is allowing for the gradual, slight, and imperceptible change in our own behavior and perception. So whatever preconceived ideas we had about things playing out in these countries, we would have to understand that it's shaped largely by the things we consume on these platforms. And these are first-hand accounts coming from actors within these spaces. Now, I'll move to two other panelists who are coming from countries that are considered relatively stable in the West African sub-region. But yeah, they have their own dysfunction and their own issues. I would go to Kane, who is joining us online. He's coming from Senegal, joining from Senegal, to share with us how foreign-backed disinformation have impacted civic space and democratic institutions in his country. Then I would come to you. So Kane, if you can hear me. Then I'll throw the question to you. You can take it whilst we wait for Kane to connect with us.
Thank you very much, Rabiu. I think Ghana is relatively described as kind of democratic, one way or the other, compared to other countries in the sub-region. But we have also had our own challenges. And if you look at disinformation, it is being used as a tool to really weaken democratic processes, not only in fragile states, but even in functioning democracies as well. in the case of Ghana, we've seen high incidence of disinformation in our elections. And during elections, we've had occasions where there have been the spread of fake news, there have been a lot of political party propaganda to shape and influence the opinion of voters in a way that will suit their interests. But more recently, we are witnessing the proposal of a new legislation. It's currently a bill, and it's called the Cybersecurity Law. And there are so many challenges with the law. One of it is that there currently exists a cybersecurity authority, and the cybersecurity authority is asking for more prosecutorial powers. And we think that such a power must be under a judicial body that have an oversight to ensure that the power is exercised impartially and also exercised in a way that cannot be abused. So this is currently the debate that is going on in Ghana, and it's not different from other countries in the sub-region. Nigeria also have a cybersecurity law, and there are a lot of challenges with the application of the law. So generally, we can say that Ghana is having its own experiences, but there still exist challenges. But if I can also comment briefly on the narratives. I wanted to echo the point about some of the narratives that seeks to target some of the multilateral institutions like ECOWAS. And for the work that we do, as Wademos, for example, we had wanted to work with ECOWAS to see whether we can get some kind of regional benchmarks to serve as some kind of a model to help countries to really fight the issue of disinformation. But ECOWAS is one of the institutions that is really facing a lot of information, manipulation, just trying to make sure that it delegitimates the relevance of the institution and make it a bit useless in the eyes of the ordinary citizen. So whilst we are having our challenges in Ghana, the problem is quite regional in character in Ghana, and it requires a lot of regional efforts to have some kind of standardization and harmonization to address the problem of disinformation in the sub-region.
Now that you've brought the issue of ECOWAS as a regional body, and particularly looking at some of the rollback of democracy in the sub-region, and the concerns from the public with regards the workings of ECOWAS and the efforts they put in to stop the rollback, particularly with regards governments and presidents that want to stay beyond their welcome. How do you think ECOWAS can position itself to tackle disinformation when they are arming people with these narratives, because it seems self-inflicted?
So I think ECOWAS itself has come to the understanding that it has to be fit for purpose. And as a result of that, as part of its celebration for its 50 years, ECOWAS is making the case that its normative instruments and frameworks are not fit for purpose. I think one area that ECOWAS is trying to improve upon is to institutionalize human rights mechanisms in its normative frameworks and its engagement with member states. It currently has a department on democracy and governance, but largely the obsession is on elections. And it draws its strength from the African Commission on Human and Purpose Rights. The charter that governs human rights mechanisms in the sub-region is the vehicle that the Regional Economic Committee of ECOWAS is using to promote human rights principles in the region. But these have to be regionalized one way or the other within the context that we find ourselves. So we are expecting ECOWAS to really be resilient and institutionalize these human rights mechanisms in its frameworks as it seeks to review the protocols. Currently, the region is really experiencing a lot of backlash. The democratic norms are not being respected, and you are right, term limits have been eroded in so many times. And ECOWAS itself has come to the point that they need to work towards standardizing term limits. And as civil society, one of the campaigns and advocacy that we are picking is to work with the regional body to find ways around harmonizing presidential term limits in the region, especially looking at 2 terms. It's going to be very difficult if you look at the situation in Togo. If you look at Côte d'Ivoire, the constitution was revised, and the term for the president was reset. The expectation is that this term, the current term that the president is currently enjoying, will be the last period in office. We are hoping that if you're able to solve that and be able to resolve the issue in Côte d'Ivoire, the issue in Togo, which is quite very difficult currently within the constitutional architecture that has been designed. But I think Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Benin, some of the countries offer some kind of promise in resolving term limit issues in the region.
Sure. Cassie, let me come to you, and before I come to Musa, I don't know if Kane has managed to connect with us virtually. If not, Cassie, so what would the government and the leadership in the sub-region, what would they seek to gain by weaponizing disinformation to destabilize their countries? More and more, beyond just destabilizing their countries through disinformation campaigns, we are seeing the increasing role of the jihadists who are also contributing same. I don't know, what is the ultimate, they seek to benefit from destabilizing their own countries through these campaigns?
It's a very, very good question. It's a hard one. But I think disinformation is, for me, my perception, it's like disinformation is a symptom of like the struggle that democracy is, the struggle about like, the values of democracy. Because you can see that in terms of narrative, in terms of content, what those people are using is like, it's all they're turning out all the values related to democracy. Our government, I'll give the example of Central African Republic, the government is using disinformation not just to fight against their opponent, they also fight against civil society. They are using that to shrink civic space. And I think it's where they want to go is like, they want to come with that idea that freedom of speech, which is the main issue, the main objective for them, is like freedom of speech is just, they're the one owning it at some point. And what I realize is that even beside of it, they're creating like a narrative where civil society and even civic space is becoming a threat, even for the population themselves. I remember when we made that strike against like the price of oil, the price of access to electricity and other, and they create another civil society fighting us, not just online, but also in the street. And so the content, when you read the content of that other civil society created by the government, they are using some of the word in terms of access to freedom of speech, freedom of fighting against us, they treat us as terrorists. So it's like they completely, they paint us in dark. So the information, it's a weapon for them, but also it's another way for them to just shut down civil society, ensure that they are the one owning the narrative. And so far, I don't think that we find like clear solution to that. And yeah.
Talking about solutions, Musa, what do the government seek to benefit from doing this, and what do you think are the targeted policy recommendations you would propose to be able to deal with these things?
Yeah, as my colleague Casey mentioned, this is a good question actually, because in the Sahel region it's very simple, it's to maintain in power. Very simple. Because disinformation and propaganda are used to create fact-based action which doesn't or never existed actually. So that means it can solve today's pressure, but it will not solve tomorrow's problems. Because no matter the regimes, democratic, authoritarian, if you don't deliver, at a certain moment you will fail and people will stand after you. This is what we are eternally on pressure every day in our region. and why only people have access to information. When I say to information is the ones who have the right to talk about the story and the narratives. For example, you mentioned this law, cybersecurity laws. It arrived now in our countries, like people have not the right to talk about the attacks. You have to wait the official press release from the government side. They qualify this, even for journalists, to be in the communication line of the jihadist groups. One thing. A second thing is, I was having this conversation with Dr. Kojo yesterday. Who qualify who to be a terrorist or to be a jihadist, yes or not? And why? So these are things people sometimes don't pay attention. For example, if I stand this morning to say, oh, okay, from now you are considered as a terrorist. So that means whoever speak with you or deal with you or work with you is considered as a terrorist. But when you take also back in a few years, all the national conversation, gathering of Malians, for example, together, like denied national dialogue, inclusive dialogue, at all the recommendation, people say, we have Malians who are known to not be terrorists. They were fighting for some revendication, social economic things. We think we can talk about or talk with these people. And there was a certain moment, the question is, at this point is, are we wanting a bad peace, or are we focusing ourselves to go for a good war? So if we don't arrive to solve this, all the propaganda, fake news, whatever you will qualify it, is to maintain a regime which is not delivering. Sometimes, I think earlier, one of the students asked the question about Ibrahim Traore, about nationalizing certain things in the country. You can say tons of things, but on what kind of human right violation these are being built? These are certain narratives towards Africa. But the same Ibrahim Traore, another narrative towards the US is different. I think these are doing what I call human-centered design thinking. The process is creating a design approach to a very specific context based on the need of this context. The narrative in the US about Ibrahim Traore is the white man want to kill the only savior of Africa. And when you take the Afro-American population today, there is a huge combat, struggle of identification. People want to, I don't, because of the time issue, I cannot go deeper on that, but this is another struggle in the US.
People want a hero.
You know, so when you see or hear there is a black man, it doesn't matter from Burkina Faso or Guadalajara, and he's he's chasing friends, he's standing against white men. This is the man we need to save. But how many people this man is killing in his own country? No one is mentioning that. But these are facts. You talk about today, or you will talk about tomorrow, these are facts. He doesn't like, I like him or I don't like him. These are nothing to do with that. How many old men or young men or activists or journalists are arrested and sent directly to front without any training, without anything, because they have criticized the way things are being done? The intelligence service have arrested activists, Burkina activists who flew to Togo or to Ghana. They have arrested Burkina activists in Ghana territory. Did you hear about this?
Musa, I'm sure you have very powerful points to make, and we would want, after your questions, if you have some personal conversations you would want to have with him, after our session, you can engage him. Ibrahim Akane has joined us virtually from Senegal. I don't want to leave him out. Ibrahima, if you can hear me, quickly, if you could touch on how foreign-backed disinformation campaigns have impacted democratic institutions in Senegal, and your recommendations as to how we can deal with it. If not, then I would now allow for the audience to ask a couple of questions. We'll take the first round of questions before we wrap up. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, there's a hand over there, and there's a hand over here. We need to democratize it and have some ladies as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's go for the questions. Make a question short and sharp. Hopefully one. Doctor, do you have a question?
Enkosi igama lami ndingubuntu Makhedama, and the question is directed to Mr. Musa. There is an English idiom that says you are missing the forest for the trees. So in other words, you are focusing on the small thing and overlooking the bigger picture. Now, I'm not saying you are doing this, but I'm just thinking about that in relation to what Traore is trying to do. And I'm thinking, if that is the case, would you not say that him, in the greater scheme of decolonizing and advancing the agendas of black people and African in general, would you not say then that this is something that we can focus on in light of the keynote address that urged us to unite and work in unison? Of course, problems will be there, but would you not say that these are problems that can be dealt with, but not overly taint what the man is trying to do? And the last question, would you prefer that the French retain their hegemonic power, or do we just leave it as it is? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, there's a hand here. Okay. I see that my other speaker there is talking, but we can't hear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentations. I wanted to find out if there can be any parallels between how we treated and how they later behaved between Magufuli and Traore. And then the second question is about the transnational nature of disinformation. If you look at, is it Walai Wode, the Ghanaian YouTuber, who goes around countries, has been to, to what extent and how effective can that sort of disinformation, that sort of plays public relations game, as it were, transnationally, but in service of certain strong men. He has done this in Zimbabwe, for instance. He has even gone to Burkina Faso to look for the president, and he didn't find the president, but he had a beautiful story to tell.
Okay. Thank you. We only have 5 more minutes left. Okay.
So then, Musa.
Okay. Thank you so much. I will start with the last one. You know, that's the beauty of internet. There are some of the incredible bloggers, journalists, whoever you would think. But when I've been a journalist, I work for I work for some of the international biggest known medias, right? We've discovered some of these incredible storytellers have been paid then $400,000 to do the job. Did you know that? So we do have the evidence of that. Some are in the US, and many of these are living outside of AES because they cannot spend a week in AES. I challenge you to do that. I'm not talking about the beautiful hotel, the business class ticket, the hotels, and you get your money, you go back. I'm not talking about this. Go as an ordinary person and try to live there a week. I will go to my brother. I missed your name because you started with something very revolutionary. I didn't hear it. But what I'm telling you is also, I return you the thing. Cutting a tree make more noise than forests grow. Right? The thing you're hearing here is designed for that. Not sure you understand. I was part of, before I realized what's going on. Naturally mentioned in my bio, I was special advisor to the president of Mali, Assimi Goïta, right now. But I had to resign, and publicly, and assume it. You know why I do resign? Because the case of Mali is different than other places. We started with the protest against corruption and bad governance facing an elected government. When these guys arrived, they said, we come to terminate what you have started as a civilians. Because we spend 6 months in the street every Friday with Imam Diko. Not sure you've been following this. I will not even go deeper on that. I will just ask a quick question. Besides what you are, like from internet, have you taken any single action as an educated person to double check or to see if you have an opposite narrative on what you're having on internet? Have you tried that? I'm sure not. Okay, maybe we can have this conversation backside, but we've seen a lot of things. What I'm telling you, I flew from New York to here. I've been in a protest where people organized march on Times Square. I can tell you how all this has been organized. It's very natural, you know. Whatever a man doesn't know or ignores doesn't exist. That's the reality. That's what I say. It may be tomorrow or today or tomorrow, but people will see. This is not something you and I can talk about it because this is what you believe today. And I respect that. Based on what you have learned, on what you have heard, and what you have focused on. But what I'm talking to you, these are facts. You're not obliged to like it, but these are facts.
Sure. Thank you very much. Musa Kondo, Executive Director, Sahel Institute from Mali. Kesi Ukoto Sunye, Director, Peace and Development Watch, Central African Republic. And Mr. Paul Osei-Kuffour, who is the coordinator for Wadamus Network, Ghana. Ibrahim Akane, who is the governance expert and advisor to the special envoy of the President of Senegal. I'm told we can now hear him if he speaks. Ibrahim, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. The timekeeper has told me I have just 5 minutes. So could you just round up? Listening to the exciting conversation, what do you make of foreign-backed disinformation campaigns and how that has impacted the civic space in Senegal, and what are your recommendations to counter it?
Well, I don't think that Senegal has the same problem that countries like Mali, Niger, or Burkina Faso have. In Senegal, we are in another context where the fake news are particularly used by politicians, used by activists, used by other actors in the country to really push for their own agenda. Today, I think the social media has been captured by many, many actors, including those who are in power. You know, I'm personally disturbed, for example, by the fact that our Prime Minister, instead of using official media to discuss Senegal issues, is using the social media, is using YouTube, is using other things to reach out, apparently, to his own followers. But I think we need to look at the issue of using social media very carefully. Social media is a sector of our media where everything can happen. For me, a decent politician, a decent actor, somebody who is really working hard to change the situation in his or her country should also try to use the media that we know, the media that we have to interact with the community. Because social media at the moment is controlled by actors that have their own agenda. Public media or even private media are the one that we know that can be used. Two, the social media is also a sector that is manipulated by different other actors in the region. You know, I know my colleague mentioned many things that are happening in the region, but we need also to know that in West Africa at the moment, there are many other actors that are active in our region, not only to steal our resources, mineral resources, gold and other, but also to disturb the region and to make sure that they will continue to do those kind of, they continue to steal our resources, they continue. It's like they are diverting us from the real situation, but making sure that we never talk about the real situation so that they can use us. You know, and when I say those actors, we can name them. In Mali, it's the Middle East actors, the Emirati. I think we need to name them. We have the Russian, we have the Turkish, we have now the Ukrainians, you know, all these actors, and we also have the French, because we like it or not, what happened to the French is something so special that the French are also trying to retaliate. So all these situations are creating a peculiar context that we need to look at very carefully. Because at the end of the day, if our institutions are no longer working, if in our country, the official institutions that we created to organize our country are no longer playing their role, it's also because other actors are really trying to make sure that this doesn't work. So for me, it's a call to all of us to really try to come back to normality. Yes, social media exists, it's part of our world, but social media needs to be used in a way that it in line with our own interest. If every time social media are against our own interest, we need to combat social media, and we need to make sure that our population are protected against all these type of actors that are really trying to disturb us, to destroy us. You know, ECOWAS doesn't have only friends in Africa. West African countries don't have friends in Africa because people are looking after our resources. We need to be mindful of all those situations and to really resist against this new type of recolonization, if I can put it in that way, of our region. And we need to do everything to stop that. That's what I wanted to say. It's really unfortunate because there are many issues that were discussed during the hour. I couldn't, for technical reasons, participate in the conversation. But I really would like to thank the organizer for having this kind of conversation, particularly in the context of the G20, because we need, as African, now that we are part of the G20, to really also use the G20 as a platform where we can really urge not only our leaders, but also interact with actors from other regions, particularly the Global South, because to me, we need to create a kind of platform that concerns the Global South actors so that we can have an impact on the functioning of the G20. So if I have one message to send through this conversation, is really to call on all the civic society actors of the Global South to start thinking of how to maintain relationship, how to strengthen our relationships so that we can have a way in the G20 so that we can push our agenda in a more effective way. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim Kani. He did well to exhaust all the 5 minutes that was left. So he's the government expert and advisor to the special envoy of the President of Senegal. That'll be it for this session. Should I give you final words? The timekeeper, he's on my shoulders. So I think that will be it for this conversation. We can always engage after this session, one-on-one, if you have some questions you would want to ask. So yeah, thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, everyone. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Also, thank you to our colleague out in Senegal, Dakar. Thank you so much. Colleagues, because of time, we have to really do this. Can we now break up until 1:30? We come back at 1:30 so that we can carry on with the next session that we still have to deal with. I'm sorry about the time, but if you can help us by coming back, and then we can start. See you later. Thank you. The lunch is outside where there was tea and coffee. You'll find it there. Thank you.
Sorry about the trouble.
No, it's okay, man. Technical problems are technical problems. Yeah.